Now we're ready to start. So, hi everybody. Welcome back to another episode with Simply Susan, Historical Sewing, Cooking, and Living. Today, as you can see, we are in the kitchen and we are going to be doing some cooking today. We're actually going to be baking. Now, the recipe that I have, I actually printed out two versions of it because I wasn't entirely sure if there was a difference, which one was right, which one, well, anyway. So we are going to be making Viennese Whirls. I don't know about you, but since we've been in this time of quarantine and having so many more limited social things to do, we've been binging some pretty different shows that might not have been things that we typically would have watched. But we started watching the Great British Bake Off, and it is absolutely fascinating. They do so many different old-fashioned sort of recipes or things that are a take on something that's very old, and it's just all really interesting, I think, and it gives you an appreciation for some different recipes and different things to do. When we were watching it, we found one episode that was particularly interesting, and these cookies seemed particularly tasty and delicious. Definitely very fiddly, little decorative, fancy things, but I figured I would give them a try. I figured I would let you watch me, so I cannot promise how this is going to turn out, but we're going to try. The cookies that we're going to try to make are called Viennese Whirls. I have the Mary Berry recipe. If you watch Great British Bake Off, you know exactly who I'm talking about. But I have the Mary Berry version of the recipe. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix up the shell for the biscuits. I guess they're not cookies, they're British, so they would be biscuits. And we're going to mix that up. We're going to bake them. We're going to make the buttercream frosting, the jam, which I might have bought store-made jam instead of making my own. But we're going to use the raspberry jam, and we're going to assemble these little tasty delicacies and see what we think. So, I'm gonna grab a cup of tea. Join me as we try to make Mary Berry's Viennese Whirls. Okay, so you can see I have all of my necessary ingredients and hardware out here on the counter. But the first thing we need to do is prepare our pans, not our cooling rack. And they say that you're to line your pans with parchment, and then we need to trace on them 4-centimeter circles for where we are going to pipe our whirls. So I'm just going to lay out a little bit of parchment, and then we'll start tracing our circles. So measure the butter and icing sugar into a bowl and beat well until pale and fluffy. Okay? So 250 grams of very soft, unsalted butter. Okay. So then we need the icing sugar, 50 grams of icing sugar. I'm going to go ahead and try to sift it as I put it in, just because I bet that probably would be better. So 50 grams we want, right? Yeah. Like I've said in all three of my other videos, I am just learning what I'm doing with this recording bit, and frankly some of the cooking and sewing bits as well, but I'm having fun, and I hope that you're having fun watching me struggle and figure out how to do video things. we're gonna call that good. Okay. And flour. Okay. And it says sieve that in and beat well. Okay. Let's try to beat this up. See if it makes a giant mess everywhere or if we can do it slowly. Moderate mess. So we have our circles traced on. Now it said to do it around the outside first and then swirl inside. We are looking for a whirl, not like a rosette. Not like I could probably do that either, but all right, so we are going to wait for those to be in the fridge for a little bit so they can get a chance to set up. And I'm going to clean out my bowl, put a few things away, and get ready to make the frosting that goes in these next. So the frosting that we're making is a buttercream. And we need 100 grams of soft unsalted butter. Almost a stick, right? Then we need 200 grams of icing sugar plus extra for dusting and half a teaspoon of vanilla. Does anybody measure their vanilla? Because I think that something like that. All right, and 200 grams. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes that our cookies have been in the fridge. The oven is preheated to 375 degrees. I'm gonna put the first tray in. Okay, everyone, here is future Susan popping in to say, remember where I put that title of the sense of foreboding? Yeah, as you can see by the video that we are now watching, this is what I was talking about. So I almost didn't upload this video because the ending is so bad with the video and, you know, half of my head being cut off. However, I figured that I could still upload it. I will look back at this as a learning experience. And yeah, they're still really good cookies, right? So anyway, what you saw half of me doing here is once the cookies came out of the oven and they were a nice gentle golden brown, I piped a little bit of the buttercream frosting on them, and then I piped a little bit of the red raspberry jam. And then here I am eating the cookie. I am telling you about how amazing they are and how perfect they are, but again, you can only see half of that. Okay, so here is your history moment to go along with these amazing cookies. Shortbread is a traditional Scottish biscuit usually made from sugar, butter, and flour. Sometimes other ingredients like ground rice or corn flour or cornstarch can be added to alter the recipe. Shortbread originated in Scotland with the first printed recipe in 1736 from a Scotswoman named Mrs. McClintock. Shortbread resulted from a medieval biscuit bread, which was twice baked, enriched bread roll dusted with sugar and spices, and hardened into a dry, sweetened biscuit called a rusk. Eventually, yeast from the original rusk recipe was replaced by butter, which was becoming more of a staple in Britain and Ireland. Although shortbread was prepared during much of the 12th century, the refinement of shortbread is credited to Mary, Queen of Scots, in the 17th century. Shortbread was expensive and reserved as a luxury for special occasions such as Christmas and Hogmanay. So there you have it. Even though we have a few flaws in the process, we got through it. We made an amazing batch of cookies. And I think that I have certainly learned something in this process as well. I believe the next video that we do is going to be much better, and I believe that I have definitely learned a few things since this one. So, thank you for your patience. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. And I look forward to seeing you in future episodes where we will continue tackling historical sewing, cooking, and living together. Thank you for stopping by.